You are listening to a Life in Quebec podcast. For more, visit lifeinquebec.com.
Hi, I'm Andrew Greenfield, and the article I'm about to read first appeared in the March 2015 issue of Life in Quebec magazine. The article, titled High Gear with David Veilleux, is an interview that was conducted by Simon Jacobs, one of our writers here at Life in Quebec, and it's an interview with David Veilleux, champion cyclist. So here we go. After winning the Italian semi-classic Tre Valesine and the opening stage of the Critérium de la Dauphine, Quebec cyclist David Veilleux took part in the Tour de France. He rode with Team Eurocar, becoming the first Quebecer to ever ride in the race and close out an incredible 2013 season. In September of that year, he surprised many people by announcing his retirement from the professional circuit. Life in Quebec met with Veilleux at lunchtime in a crowded cafeteria at Laval University. He was between classes, studying for a degree in mechanical engineering, a dream that he says he has cherished for almost as long as he dreamed of racing in the Tour de France. His blue eyes showed a steely determination, and as he spoke, it became clear that he had carefully planned his tactics. Veilleux strategized his race from the beginning with clear goals and objectives, all driven by a ruthless competitive instinct. I never raced to beat someone, I always raced to beat myself. If I had a good result, I'd be happy. But I'd always ask how I could do better, keep pushing myself to achieve higher levels, he said, stretching out in a plastic cafeteria chair. In 1999, at age 11, Veilleux started mountain biking. 6 years later, he entered a study and sport-études program, studying in the morning and cycling in the afternoon. His coach, who had more experience in road racing, convinced him to try it. I remember that during the winter, the coach would make us watch VHS tapes of races like the Tour de Flanders, Paris-Roubaix and the Tour de France. Veilleux took to racing like a fish to water, and it was thanks to those videos of the famous road races that he found his goal, to compete in the Tour de France. Throughout his training and his professional career, Veilleux also took courses part-time at Cégep and university. Even when he was on the professional circuit, he took 2 or 3 courses during the fall semesters when there were fewer events and training wasn't as intense. Quite a difference from the European professionals he was racing with. Many of them do the smallest amount of school necessary and have no backup career plan once they become professional racers. One professional cyclist, learning of Veilleux's decision to retire, said he wouldn't do the same thing, not so much because he didn't want to, but because he had no idea what lay ahead after cycling. I felt sorry for the guy, because he put all his eggs in one basket, Veilleux says. It's okay, but you always have to be thinking of a plan B, in my opinion. Veilleux says he was drawn to the team tactics involved in bicycle racing, which may seem less obvious to the casual observer. In general, he explains, the lead cyclist will expend 30% more energy due to wind resistance than the cyclists riding behind. The tactics involve knowing who is in the best shape that particular day and what their speciality might be. One team member may be good at sprinting, while another is excellent at mountain climbing. When the team is racing, it's quite possible 2 or 3 team members will be used to help conserve the energy of the star cyclists, and they not even finish the race. It's difficult to talk about professional cycling without addressing the subject of performance-enhancing drugs, or PEDs. A problem became known to the world in 2012 when the Union Cycliste Internationale, or the UCI, stripped American cyclist Lance Armstrong of 7 Tour de France titles for systematically lying about drug use. Around the turn of the 21st century, PEDs were part of the biking landscape, being pushed by doctors and team management, creating a situation where a rider who didn't take PEDs would be at a serious disadvantage. I'm not trying to make an excuse, but when a cyclist doesn't have an alternative plan, it becomes even harder to say no to these types of situations, Veilleux says. Since the Armstrong scandal, the UCI has made a massive effort to clean up the sport, and nowadays there are more opportunities for young riders who want to stay clean. Drug use is not even an option now, said Veilleux. This is evident from the speed of races nowadays and the people racing, using more tactics. Although Veilleux now lives with his wife in Neuville in Quebec, some 30 kilometres west of Quebec City, he does not ride to university. In some ways, after retiring, he says biking has now become more of a pleasure for him. Before, my wife and I couldn't ride together as she was too slow and I needed to train. Once I did my 4 or 5 hours of training, I really didn't want to get back on the bike again with her. Now, even if I go for an hour, I don't care if I go 40 kilometres an hour or just 25, so I enjoy it. I still train, but there's no stress around it. Retirement has given him a freedom that he says he never felt before. Over the last 10 years, his life revolved around training and racing, sometimes to the detriment of his social life. An admitted lover of good food, he says he has to deprive himself of many of life's culinary pleasures in order to maintain an ideal body weight. Since retiring, Veilleux hasn't entered any local bike races, because he says he is too busy with coursework. His degree required a mandatory internship, so he worked on research and development with Da Vinci bicycles in Saguenay. It was fun, essentially bringing my two passions together. It's a good environment and a great team, and I hope to continue on with them when I graduate in June, he says. Veilleux has also become a motivational speaker. His presentations are entitled "Nothing is Impossible," and gives tips on how to achieve goals based on the principles he learned from his experiences in the bicycling world. So there we have it, an article there that appeared in the March 2015 issue of Life in Quebec magazine. Life in Quebec magazine is published by Média Trois Canons. To subscribe and have a copy mailed to you, visit lifeinquebec.com/magazine-subscription, and all the information you will find there. Thanks for listening.
Thank you for listening to the Life in Quebec podcast. For more news, commentary, editorials, and opinion, visit lifeinquebec.com/podcast.